Hi, this is Wing. We are back again with another video that talks about the first half 2020 data as released by Napic. In today's video, we will be looking into the primary market and also the overhang status for the primary market. So this is the overhang trend for first half 2018 to first half 2020. So you can see if you compare the second half of 2019 and the first half of 2020, we again see a rise in the number of units and also the value of the property. So you can see there's 10.7% extra units, and in terms of value, there is an extra 13.2% percentage of growth. And if you can see the summary of the overhang based on the property type for first half 2020, 20 billion or 31,000 units is in the residential unit, followed by another 5 billion, 6,000 units, shops and stratified units, 18.6 billion or 21,000 units, service apartment, another 1 billion, 2,000 units, Soho, and 2.23 billion, 1,400 units is as the residential industrial market. So you can see in terms of property value, the most is, and also in terms of units, the most is in the residential market, followed by the service apartment. Now we further zoom into the residential overhang status. So you can see from 2018 to 2020, there was an increase in 2018. There was an increase in 2018 to 2019. Second half of 2019, the number of units dropped, but when it comes to first half 2020, we saw an increase again. So you can see for the first half 2020, there is 31,600 units unsold with a value of 20.03 billion worth of value. This is for residential units. Next, we look at the performance of the sold, overhang, and launch units for first half of 2020 based on the different subsector. For terrace, launch 42,000 units, 78.5% units are sold. Semi-detached launch 11,000 units, 64.4% units sold. Low cost house launch 1,500 units, 68.8% sold. High rise units launch 7,700 units, 78.3% sold. Others is 4,300 units, 71.9% sold. If you look at the overall total, these are the unsold units for the different subsector. Add them together, there is 31,661 units, which is 23.1% of the units of the residential units, which is overhang at the moment, out of the 137,000 units. Now, if you break down the overhang based on the different by type, 53.2% is high-rise unit, followed by 29%, which is terrace unit. All right. And if you looked at the in terms of the price range for the high-rise unit, the most number of unsold units is the range of 500,000 to 700,000, which is 4,000 units, and then another 3,800 units between the range of 200 to 300,000 and also 300 to 500,000. And for the terrace house, the most unsold units is between the range of 300,000 to 500,000. And also 200 to 300,000, there's another 2,000 units unsold. So if you look at the terrace, category, and if you look at the price point, most probably this is not in Klang Valley. All right, most probably this is not in Klang Valley. Now this is overhang by state. The most number of overhang units, 6,100 units, is in Johor, followed by Selangor, 4,800 units, and third placing is 4,600 units is Perak. KL came in number 5 at 3,200 units. So this is the top 5 overhang units based on state. Number 1 is Johor, Selangor, Perak, Penang, and KL. Now this is to show the trend of the unsold units, but the project is still under construction. So you can see the trend is similar to what we've seen just now. There was an increase in 2018, but then there is a drop when it comes to the second half of 2019, and then the first half of 2020, we did see again a small increase in terms of the number of units which is unsold, but the project is still under construction. So there is 74,230 units of units currently under construction, but is still unsold. Now, based on this 74,230 unsold units, okay, out of which there is 192,000. All right, what this data is trying to show here is that the number of units currently under construction, there is 192 units, out of which 74,230 units is still unsold, which is 38.6% of the units. Now, if you look at the different subsector, so you can see for terrace, 57% is sold, under construction, semi-D and detached 51.6%, low cost house 54.3%, high rise 65.3%, and others is 58.8%. So you can see across the different subsector that is between the 50 plus to 65 plus percent of the units are sold even under construction. All right, and there is about 40% of the units are unsold. So there is no a subsector which stand out from one another. So you can see the data is almost identical across the different subsector. So based on the unsold data, high rise, based on the unsold data for under construction, all right. So high rise units, 50.9% of the units, and terrace house is 35.9% of the total unsold units. Then next, we look at the price range based on the different subsector. First, we look at the high rise. The most unsold units is between the 300 and 500,000. There is 10,985 units which is unsold, and then the second is another 9,900 units, whereby the price range is between the 2 to 300,000 range. Whereas for terrace house, most of the unsold units, again, if you see, it's below the 500,000 range. So 3 to 500,000, there is 6,000 units. 2 to 300,000, there is another 7,000 units, and below 200,000, there is 6,000 units. Again, so you can see based on the price point, most probably these terrace houses will not be in Klang Valley. Next, we look at the semi-D and the detached. The most unsold units, it's within the 300 to 500,000 range. And next is 1,200 units of those are above the 1 million. So I believe this is the higher value bungalows and semi-Ds in Klang Valley, which is unsold for semi-D and detached. Unsold under construction by state, first half 2020, with the most number of units is 10,609, Selangor, followed by Perak, 10,000 units, and then third placing is 9,200 units in Johor. KL, there is 6,300 units of unsold units, which is still under construction. Unsold trend from 2018 to 2020, which is not constructed, which means that the units haven't begun construction yet. Okay, so from 2018, you can see 2018 to 2019 there is a drop, and then second half of 2019 it go flat, and then first half of 2020 um, there is a drop. So in terms of unsold units for projects that haven't start construction, the number of unsold units actually dropped. But I believe this is due to the scale down in terms of the number of projects that is being launched this year. So this is the performance of sold and unsold based on projects which haven't start construction yet. So you can see total there is 23,000 units project property that is launched but haven't start construction yet. Out of which 37.4% is already sold, and another 62.6% or 14,500 units which is still unsold, but these units haven't start construction yet. Translates to the different subsector. So you can see in terms of terrace and semi-D, these units in terms of take-up rate for projects that haven't start construction is low, as compared to high-rise, the take-up rate for projects that haven't start construction is higher. Okay, this is by the based on the type subsector and also the price range. So you can see most of the unsold units but not yet constructed, 70.8% is high rise, and then another 21.2% of the units is terrace house. And for the high rise units, in terms of the unsold units, you can see they are from the range of 2 to 300,000 and also 500 to 700,000 units. As for the terrace house, the most unsold units is the range 300 to 500,000. But you can see another data here is the for high-rise units there is 10,000 units, as compared to terrace units there's only 3,000 units. So most of the new developments or the newly launched in the first half of 2020, most of it is the high-rise unit. Now this is based on state unsold units but not constructed yet. So 6,690 units is in KL, followed by Selangor 2,700, and Penang 1,300 in Penang. One very interesting data here, you can see Johor. Johor, the new launch has scaled down so significantly as compared to the previous data. So you can see in 2020, most of the launch is happening in KL and Selangor, but you can see mostly is in KL. The new launch in first half of 2020, most of it is happening in KL. Now that is residential. Now we move to commercial property. If you see from 2018 to 2020, in terms of the overhang issue for commercial property, is always on the rise. All right, because this could be because the government incentive or the HOC campaign that was being run, it's only targeted towards the residential units. So which is why you can see the commercial properties in terms of the overhang issue, it is still on the rise. So there is a total of 29,941 units which is unsold at a value of 24 billion worth. of property. So if you compare the second half of 2019 and the first half of 2020, there is an increase both in terms of units and also value by about 20%. Now this is the performance of sold, overhang and launch unit in first half of 2020. This is a overhang, which is a completed construction. There is 114 units which completed construction, out of which 75% of the 75.3% of the units are sold, whereas there is a balance of 26.2%, which is 29,900 units are unsold. Now, if you look at the different subsector, most of the unsold units is service apartment. So you can see there is 87,000 units launched, out of which 75% sold. There's another 24.7% of the units which is still unsold. Now, of course, the followed by terrace shops, 61.5% sold, balance 38.5% which is unsold. Soho units, 78.5% of the units are sold, and there is a balance of 21.5% of the Soho units are unsold upon completion. Now, although you see that this semi-D and detached shop, the unsold percentage is high, but the number of units is not significant. Now we look at by type. So 72.4% of the unsold units completed construction is service apartment. All right, 72.4% of the units out of the 30,000, it is in service apartment. And if you look at the price point, 700 to 1 million, there is 8,600 unsold units, and above 1 million, there is 6,000 units unsold. So you can see that for the service apartment, more of the unsold units is above the 500,000 range. And most of the service apartment launch, you can see this is in the Klang Valley. All right. Whereas for the terrace shop is between the range of 300 to 1 million. Based on state, Johor, 17,984 units unsold, Selangor 4,300 units, and followed by KL 2,700 units. So you can see Johor overhang issue is mostly coming from the service apartments. Followed by number 2 and number 3 is KL and Selangor. Trend of unsold unit which is still under construction for commercial property. There was a drop from 2018 to 2019, but then there is a slight increase. Next, we move to the sold and unsold under construction units for the commercial property. In the first half of 2020, there is a total of 119,000 units which is completed, out of which 61% of the units are sold, and then another 39% of the units, or 46,554 units, are unsold. So if you can see, most of the out of this 119 units, 95,000 of the units is in the service apartment. So out of that, 37.5% of the units are unsold. Followed by Soho, total 13,000 units, out of which 33.8% of the units are unsold. Now, if you look at the percentage based on the type, the most unsold units are service apartment, followed by Soho, 9.7% of the units, which is unsold. Now, if you look at the price point, for service apartment, the unsold units are within the range of 300 to 500,000, followed by 500 to 700,000 range. Now, this is by state. See, the the impact for under construction, Johor there is 10,000 units, KL there is 15,000 units, and Selangor there is 10,382 units. Right. So out of these service apartments, predominantly dominated by service apartments, unsold under construction, 15,000 of the units is in KL, followed by Johor 10,900 units and Selangor 10,300 units. Now this is unsold not constructed, which means that project that is just launched. There was a drop. There was a huge drop in terms of unsold units for units which is unconstructed, but the trend was reversed in the first half of 2020. So you can see if you compare second half 2019 and the first half of 2020, there is 11,000 units unsold but haven't begun construction. Now if you look at it, first half 2020 there is 20,000 units launched, haven't started construction, out of which 44% of the units are sold. 44% of the units are sold upon launching, and the balance 56% or 11,000 units remain unsold. Out of the 20,000 launch, 19,000 of the units is in the service apartment. Alright, so you can see 44 units sold upon launching, 55% are unsold, followed by terrace shop, 35% sold upon launching and 65% unsold, but this is only 500 units. So for the newly launched, unsold but also not yet construction, it is dominated, most of it is actually the service apartment. So you can see service apartment upon launching, 44% of the units are sold even before construction begin, and then the balance 55.8% is unsold. Now based on the type, for those unsold but yet to start construction, 96.9% of the units are service apartment. So if you look at the price range, service apartment unsold is within the 300 to 500,000 range, and also the 500,000 to 700,000 range. These are the unsold units. If you go by state, most number of unsold units is 9,900 is in KL. So you can see first half of 2020, most of the service apartment launches is happening in KL. Alright, that's all I have for today. In today's video where I talk about the overhang issues and also the unsold units for the primary market. If you have got any feedback, leave us in the comment section below. If you find the video valuable, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, share the video to your friend if you find it useful. That's all I have for today. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Yeah.